Hello. How's everybody feeling?
Good.
So I think that's the purpose, because this is the Hive, and we are a not-for-profit. And basically, we're not a venue, we're just a place where good friends and good people can come together and experience things that are a little different or just fun for us. So I beg you to make yourself as comfortable as possible. If you guys want chairs, anybody wants chairs? I bet if I wait, more people will want chairs. Lead guests, can we take out some chairs so everybody can feel comfortable? And just a few words on what's going to happen tonight. I have no idea. I only know that I know this man over here for quite a Van Goose, his new incarnation Van Goose for many, many years, and every time that he comes to me with anything that he wants to do, it's an absolute yes, because there is nothing that he's done so far that will not happen. And then I had the opportunity to meet another quite nice person. He's wearing a white suit, so he got my heart already. So I think that's it for opening numbers, opening words. The last thing that I can say is that this beautiful woman over there with blonde hair, she made fantastic food, which is complimentary. So eat and be happy. However, the alcohol, not so complimentary. I mean, we're you have been very generous so far, and we thank you for it. That's it. Sit down and have fun.
Standing on a small stone, Ilan flattens his palm against the cliff rising above the carriage road.
Horizontal striations create roofs and ledges. From the smaller ledges, gnarled bonsai cypresses sprout. Full trees rise out of the largest. Behind him, sitting on a low stone wall that separates the carriage road from a steep wooded hillside, stretching down to the Hudson River's plains, his wife rifles through her pack, a rustling that harmonizes with that of fallen leaves caught in the wind. Once there was a before, he thinks. And the words are abstract. He tilts his head as if to examine the 80-foot climb above. The words are sad in the abstract, the concrete events. A shooting in Tel Aviv, an escape to New York City, leaving the derech, the path of righteousness, are, well, concrete. Wailing Wall, he thinks. As at that famous relic, tufts of vegetation fracture the cliff's conglomerate rock. I have a nostalgia for a period in which I had nostalgia, he mouths. The pain he feels is not for the passion with which he once prayed at the last standing wall of the old temple in Jerusalem, but for the young man walking whole Manhattan neighborhoods in a summer evening, awkward in his new secularism. It's for his wonder at junk stores on Mulberry spiked with memories of the old city's shook, as if lower Manhattan streets were equal exchange for stone alleyways, 2 millennium old. A few stores selling knockoff watches and cheap baseball hats, as colorful as a place where bins of fish heads divided crates of fresh eggs from street cobblers. He looks over at the blue-helmeted woman who's begun scaling horsemen. She moves quickly, placing her hands and feet precisely in seams and on small protrusions. He tilts his head back further still to follow her ever higher ascent, and suddenly he loses his balance, steps backwards to stay standing. He wonders if he isn't maybe too sick to climb? No, too something. What something? Scared? Too something. Too drawn to the 23-year-old wandering the wind-swept concrete fissures of lower Manhattan, chilly in his first real suit, desperate for the warmth of a bar, of a woman's smile, too whatever, scared, yes, but off balance, really. Too off balance to climb the hard short thing next to horsemen his wife mentioned over their omelet's darkening remains. Blue Helmet told him its name, apoplexy, but knowing what to call the collection of minute ledges and tiny cracks that constitute a route up this section of the cliff doesn't make him feel much better about leaving the ground. He craves a cold or the flu, an emergency call from work or a car accident on the S-curves below, a sudden intervention and detention by Homeland Security. Fuck it. Today is another day that Yedid has chosen to spend with him. If he can string enough of these together, if they can stay together through enough of these days, there will again be a time in which Yedid he doesn't dare say it. There will be a time in which Ilan will feel comfortable even when he isn't wearing the black vest. There will be a time in which his wife's performance voice in city bookstores doesn't evoke a bullet wound in a young woman's chest, just inches above unexploded coils of nails and bolts and dynamite and exoviscera amidst immolation. There will be a time, sure there will, but that time seems even more abstract than the words that sadden him. That time is like the cab ride home you promised to yourself, for right after you finish the drink you just ordered. So I think this is the moment where I'm supposed to be like, we've been touring the country and we've been all up and down the East Coast, but man, Brooklyn, that's our favorite. How many of you guys are from Brooklyn, yo? What about Manhattan? What's up? Manhattan the house, New York City, New York State, East Coast, America, North America. I mean, I could keep going, but you're like, okay, now this is getting into like some bad version of performance art, so I'll stop. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We're so excited to be here. We're in this like hive that I attribute entirely to Yula, though I know that there's like all these people who are doing all kinds of cool things, like the food and the people who have been like taking the donations to cover the food at the door, and like the drinks, and like there's like a spotlight which makes me feel fancy. Of course, like Shlomi and I have been doing this, Goose and I have been doing this. He wrote an album, I wrote a book. This is the book. He has an album. It's like, it doesn't look like an album. You're like, where's the album? And it's like a business card with like a download code. But we have all of those things over there if you guys want them after the show, and there'll be more of the food and like more of the drinks, and you guys will be even more tired, and you will have promised yourself a cab ride home, but you will instead have another drink. So the first reading I did for this book, they were giving me free beer, which like sounds like a stand-up routine, but it isn't. What was bad about it is like beer makes your throat dry. So what the comedy routine of tonight will be watching me try to like use this and flip pages.
Do you need a page turner?
Yes, but I think it wouldn't work well.
Or a mic?
But there's so many things. I need so many things. I'm going to read a little bit more and then we'll go back and forth. Ilan pulls on a small shelf of rock inches over his head, tries to repress images of his wife surrounded by medieval rabbinic commentaries on the Song of Songs while he paces the house shiftless and bored and places the outside edge of his right shoe on a small lip of crystals protruding from the conglomerate rock, turning his right hip into the wall and stepping up. He places his left foot on another clump of crystals and slides his right hand into a 2-inch thick horizontal crack at the outer limits of his reach. The stone cools his hand as it slips into the Palestinian woman's coat, and he almost yanks it back out from the rock. Breathe, he commands himself. Slow your heart rate. And he breathes, but the blood pooling up through her clothes is both warm and cold on his hand. Pull open her coat, he whispers to the 20-year-old with the gun. Pull open her coat so that you can see that she's a bomber, that you had to shoot her, that you had to shoot, that you had to shoot. Ilan grunts gutturally, loudly, and mantles up to reach high, forcing himself not to look into the crack as he passes it. Sure, if she's a bomber, then you had to shoot. And as he lifts his hand past his face on the way to a horizontal protrusion, moving his left foot onto a diagonal edge several feet up, he can't help but look for blood on his palms. Asshole, he mouths silently, and moves further. He's off now. The ground is below, though not far below, several feet, 5 maybe. His heels are level with Yadid and Lewis's conspiratorially close heads. Deep breath and twist his ass right to weight his right arm. Walk feet up into a layback. Don't fall now. Pull hard and jam a hand into the giant pocket in the rock. Too wide for either scribbled prayers or climbing gear. Keep weight low to make the open hand grip stick to the sloping walk. Walk feet up with arms straight. Stand fast and grab the tiny ledge with the right hand. Another